Welcome to NFT Rebels, the podcast where technology, creativity, education, and non-fungible experiences meet each other. It's me, Annie Alexander, and in each episode, me and the Rebels will have a real unscripted talk, share genuine opinions, and show raw emotions. Should we start? Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the NFT Rebels. I'm super excited to welcome Franklin to the studio. Welcome, Franklin, and thank you for saying yes and dedicating time to me and my audience.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Nice. So I guess we just start from the very beginning. It's always like everyone has a bit of backstory because NFT space is so new. I mean, in comparison, obviously, that almost everyone has been doing something else before they got into this space. So who was Franklin pre-NFT times?
Pre-NFT times, I guess up until around the pandemic started, I wasn't really much of a investor. I didn't really put my money anywhere. I would just spend it all. So I lived in California at the time and moved to the East Coast, and I was working, or still am working, as an engineer. So it wasn't really anything related to crypto or NFTs. Um, I got into crypto and was interested during the pandemic because there's just a lot more talk about it going on social media and Twitter. Not nearly as much as now, but I was just following the economy and noticed that crypto was doing pretty well towards the latter end of 2020. So it was just something that always interested me. I didn't know it would obviously turn out like this, but more specifically, my journey into NFTs started with, first I made my Twitter account on election day of 2020 just to follow the news and to follow like the prediction markets to see who was putting money on what side on different political results in the United States, and just following different people on Twitter kind of went down the rabbit hole. Then you start looking up different ways to make money through investments like stocks and crypto. And then by March of last year, 2021, I found out a lot about Top Shot, and so I started moving a lot of my crypto investments into Top Shot, which is, I guess, still sort of crypto based. You can buy your moments and stuff with crypto. So that led me to do more research on Twitter, follow as many Top Shot collectors as I could to kind of see their strategies and what they were interested in, and how they approached NFTs, because I realized that Top Shot actually pretty much explained NFTs to me in a way that I could really understand, as far as things that are minted only one time on the blockchain, and that date's not going to change. So it'll just be out there forever for anybody to collect and hold or resell. So one thing led to another, and then the big profile picture boom, I think, started with the Bored Ape Yacht Club about 9 months ago at the beginning of May. So a lot of people who I followed on Twitter changed their profile pictures and instantly made their apes a personal identity. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing to do. And it was something, as I was following a lot of the trends and trying to see, where to get ahead, I thought that was the best move for me to also join that club. So I minted 3 apes, and then the rest is history. The same day on May 1st, I started buying a lot of apes at the time. And at the time, the floor price was like, 0.2, 0.3 ETH. It was very, very, very cheap compared to it is now. So
yeah. And the minting price was 0.08, right?
Yeah, it was 0.08 for any ape. So there was not a bonding curve. And I had realized that by them saying it implied to me that previous projects would make a bunch of money during the mint process by raising the price as more NFTs got minted, to the point where, if it's about to sell out, in order for you to even jump in, you have to pay like 5 or 10 times more than somebody who minted earlier. So by them making it a level, price to mint, it kind of gave everybody equal opportunity to get a rare one or just something that they like.
Yeah, I got it. It's interesting. I mean, you're not the first person that I'm meeting who kind of, had his entry point into the NFT world through Top Shots,
Mhm.
and it feels like it's a very easy kind of entry point, very user friendly, especially for people who don't have the crypto background in place. It's very easy to come in. And the interesting thing is like it's on the Flow blockchain. It's not even on Ethereum blockchain or any
Right.
other kind of relatively more popular blockchains out there. So that's another kind of curious point. And the third thing that I notice is many of the flow of the Top Shot guys actually got into the PFPs and started by Bored Apes being their first PFP thing. So I don't know if anyone from there kind of started bringing in people or what exactly happened, but it felt like for many, Bored Apes were actually the first collectible they got into. That was your case as well, right? From what I understand.
Yeah, I didn't really have a profile picture that represented me. Nobody would have known who I was, or connected a profile picture to me if I didn't change it to my current one, which is the gold for ape. So that was the profile picture I used pretty much I ever since I bought it. I didn't mint that one, but once I bought it, I figured that was gonna be the best one I could get for the money I had. So yeah, just left it at that. But I did notice, people who didn't really have, I sort of recognized their profile picture, but maybe it was a picture of themselves or a picture of a basketball player. But once they changed it to an ape, you could easily recognize, I guess, the sense of community that the former, Top Shot group, now Ape group, was having amongst each other.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing as well. So, I mean, the Bored Apes Yacht Club, it was kind of a big phenomena back in the days because like before that there were many profile picture sort of projects out there and collectibles out there, and there were like tons of coming after that. So obviously there has been a bit of luck and a bit of kind of research and finding out about it at a relatively early stage, etc., etc. So
Mhm.
how did you like, I mean, obviously, yeah, you saw many of the people changing it to their profile pictures, but like what was there, like what made you decide to get into it? Was it just a curiosity, or was there something that actually hooked you up and kind of made you believe in it so much that you later on continued buying more of those?
I think at the time, so it was kind of hard for me to go back and know exactly what I was thinking, but I definitely was on Twitter, definitely, shopping for Top Shot moments, really specific ones. So, my nights would just be going back and forth between the two. And it was just something really crazy on that night of April 30th going into May 1st, because the apes just took over Twitter. Everybody was flexing as a profile picture, um, bragging about how many they minted or if they're going to mint more. And so I had never minted an NFT on ETH before. It was just Top Shot. So I had to. I didn't have a laptop to do any crypto as well. So I had to use my cell phone MetaMask app to do everything. So it was kind of clunky. But once I figured out how it works and make sure I had enough gas for it after I minted the three, um, I think what made me mint was just uh, credible profile that I followed probably shared the link to the website and said, here's where you go to mint. And I didn't really know the steps after that. Obviously now we know a whole lot more, precautionary measures and what to do during minting. But at the time it was just kind of the wild west. It was press a button and get lucky. So I
Yeah.
after I minted the three, I was pretty happy with what I got. Um, just it was just nice to be part of the club. But just based off of the Twitter activity, I knew it was going to sell out that same night. It was, I was around 6603 through 6605 for my three, so there was about 3,000, almost 3,400 left, and I knew they were going to sell out really quick, just based off of watching Twitter. So, that was my first time ever being in a profile picture um, atmosphere, during the minting process, but also during a time where the mint was going to sell out, because that happens like 5 times a day, or 5 times a day nowadays. The new collection would sell out. but back then it was just the first time I'd ever seen it, so it was something that was fascinating. Um, that same night, I probably joined the Discord and eventually probably read the website, checked out the roadmap, saw what they were doing a little bit differently with the same flat price to mint. So there was a lot of things that I felt that they were already giving back to the community just by
Mhm.
in their roadmap and their rules. They still have a bathroom wall where you can paint a pixel every, I think every 15 minutes, but it was a lot shorter time. It was probably every 2 minutes back then. So I
Which
was,
was the only utility back in those times, right?
yeah, that was my first time ever
Yeah.
connecting my MetaMask and approving that I own a specific NFT. But I mean, if that's all we had, it was better than anything else I had. So I thought that was pretty cool that they like, you know, not to be like an exclusive group, but at least to be rewarded for owning NFT, to
Yeah.
be able to participate the same way other people are doing at the same time almost.
Yeah. No, completely makes sense. I mean, so unfortunately, I completely missed the train, or should I say the yacht with Bored Ape Yacht Club,
Mhm.
because I accidentally discovered them on Twitter Spaces. So I kind of, I got into their Twitter Spaces completely out of nowhere, and I had no idea what was going on. So I went in. I was the only one without like an ape avatar in there, and I started listening just to figure out what's going on. Um, and and the interesting thing where I felt like, oh my god, like this project is kind of a real deal, was because the conversation wasn't about money, it wasn't about trading, it wasn't about flipping. The guys there were talking about putting together a book club, what books they are going to read, what kind of projects they want to organize together, what kind of community activities they should be about, and stuff like that. So I was like, oh my god, like this is so different in terms of vibe and in terms of connection. These guys are like a real deal. So then I even remember, like, I probably have it in my messages, I messaged someone from the stage, from the speakers, and I'm like, can you tell me what is this all about? So he sent me the link to the website, and I started looking into it. But again, like, I was too late to the whole party thing. And although now when you look at it, I mean, it wasn't late at all, but like, you didn't know back then, right? so
Mhm.
so I think, like, not only they shaped the things differently, and they were one of the first ones who came up with this new type of value and utility, and kind of the copyright elements, etc. But from me as a writer, from my perspective, they were the only ones who probably had the most compelling story around it, where they did the storytelling right from the perspective that the story was not about them. The story was about the people in the community. So the people in the community were the heroes of the stories, and usually that's when it works best, that's when it resonates most, right? So subconsciously people get attracted to the thing because it's about them. So that was kind of the interesting thing. Obviously, after that, you came across loads of and loads of different collectibles. So let's just look at that side of the story, right? Like, now we're bombarded with loads of different all sorts of animals are already probably out there. I don't know if they've missed any, but it feels like all animal collectibles are almost there. We ended up with lots of derivative projects, and lots of different versions of apes and punks and everything else. So that has been covered more or less. I think I saw something about a mixture between dead fellows and something else recently. Whatever, like, we had the derivatives. We have many different versions of women at the moment. I don't know what else will be coming in the future. So there is loads of stuff, loads of information coming in. Obviously, we don't have enough time to follow everyone, to go and visit everyone's discords, to talk to all the communities. It's just gonna be impossible. So how are you keeping track of those? Like, how are you actually choosing which one to look into?
That's a good question. I think for me, with the apes and I guess a lot of rumors coming out about possible utility token, that could be used for their
Mm,
game or merch or any sort of thing. Um, that kind of led me to looking into other collections that have passive utility tokens like cyberkongs and cold-blooded creeps. So lately, I've pretty much since late January, early February, started really going into the creeps because doing the math and looking at how many passive tokens I could get with my investment, I thought it was a good way to sort of, instead of going all in on apes, or what at the time it was all in on apes and cybercons, I could sort of split my investments to have a little bit of creeps passive tokens and cybercons with the banana, and then apes hopefully with their impending token. So those are the three that I really like. And then once I am comfortable with how much I'm putting in and how much I'm getting in return, I would use that money to reinvest in just other projects that I would have to do some research to make sure that I'm not doing it too late or I'm not in there too early, just so I could flip a few and make some more money that way. So right now I'm not trying to do as much flipping, just trying to set a take the money that I have, not bringing money in, but use the money that I have to hopefully generate some more passive tokens. And then so it might take like a month or two before I get really heavy back in the game. But I definitely spent the month of January, late part of December, just building up as many apes as I could, so I could put that to the side until we deal with the changes with the ape coin, and then focus my investments on other projects that can be like to me it's like a walkthrough or a practice run of what I could be doing when Bored Apes release their ape coin. What would be the best strategy? Is it do you use the coins to play in the game? Do you sell them? Do you trade them? Do you sell your apes to buy more coins? Do you sell your coins to buy more apes or creeps, etc.? So
Yeah.
I'm mainly interested in like the play to earn and passive utility tokens. But January was a really huge month. I've noticed a lot of collections that weren't doing too well, and November, December really took off in January. So I missed a lot, by focusing on just the apes and cybercons and creeps. But hopefully, I can get some of that back, residually, to like sort of buy into those projects that really um, went up a lot in January. And with that said, I think I don't know what would be, I guess, the best thing going forward for NFT, like what particular trend or genre, but definitely, January definitely opened up my eyes that there's a lot of different projects that did well. It's not just apes or creeps or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah, I
So
mean, World of Women had a
yeah,
phenomenal growth, for example, and they're going to be increased this as well. So it's a very similar kind of road ahead for them
and
that I see. Yeah, it feels
and then, yeah,
like.
that project did really well, and I think this is observation, but I think I've seen a lot more women join the space, which is obviously great. Um, I
Yeah.
it's just kind of weird, as a guy to make financial decisions based on whether or not more women come into the space. But um, some people do that, and now that I think that we've seen the growth, it definitely there's no more inherent bias, or I'm not saying no more, but there's a lot less bias as far as men choosing projects that are created by men or women. So I'm definitely interested in seeing what women-led projects and projects that make women the focus, I should be investing in going forward. So I
Yeah,
I know there are a lot more
it's going to
coming
be
out soon, so
interesting.
it'll be pretty fun
Yeah.
to pick which one.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because I remember like back in the days when there was loads of talk about diversity and specifically like lack of diversity in the collectibles. Many people were giving me the argument of punks, for example, and they were saying like punks were mainly all male. Many had that misconception, although like I think around 3,000 out of 10,000 are female punks, right? The thing
Mm-hmm.
was that those female punks were just not used as profile pictures because most of the punk owners were men, right? Even if they were owning the female version, they were not they were showcasing the male version because they resonated with that. So it gave that wrong impression that it was an all male kind of avatar based project, for example. So the things are changing at the moment, obviously. So what with Bored Apes, I get it that you accumulated more and more. So at the moment you have 30 something, and you're keeping and holding them because you don't know what the plans with the ape token are going to be. So you want to be a big holder when that thing comes along. That was the logic behind it, right?
Mhm.
And then you will
Correct.
decide what to do with them. Okay.
Yeah, they announced that in October, shortly after I got my first CyberCon. So I was already sort of leaning towards trying to get more of those passive tokens because I had so many apes at the time. But once they chose or announced that they were going to do it, that was a really big time for me to hold on to as many as possible because I didn't want to. I'd rather hold on to it and I can take the risk of maybe the price going down or resale price going down while still keeping the token, as opposed to selling it now and then missing out on whatever possible airdrop or multiplier that I would get for having the ape. So it's a obviously it's an excessive amount of apes, but it's the point where like, okay, I'm fine with not touching these apes until ApeCoin. If all the rest of my investments go to zero, I'll still be okay. So it's like I don't want to like get I don't want to really get rid of my apes or a large chunk of them now, and then get into other projects, and then say, oh, I missed out on this many ape coin, from doing that. So it's just more of a bias in the faith I have in the team for the project that I think I owe myself to get as much as possible with the, I guess, portfolio that I have, which is what I have currently.
No, I totally get that. I mean, since you mentioned the team, like, how did you feel? Like, I was so, I don't know, like, I didn't really feel well at all when this thing with BuzzFeed happened and two of the team members were doxxed against their will. And their identities were kind of revealed because the whole team was anon before that. So, I mean, what do you think about that? Like, to me, it was such a like low, not even low quality journalism. Like, it wasn't a journalism at all, and I didn't even feel like there was a need for revealing anything because they couldn't find anything suspicious or anything that wasn't really like I just didn't feel like the need of that reveal. It didn't really add any value to the whole article, or it didn't really bring anything to the space per se. So I felt like it was very kind of I don't know, I felt like it was a very unethical move. Like, how did you feel about that?
I agree somewhat that that they probably shouldn't have doxed them in that way, unknown or without any sort of warning or anything like that. I just know that nowadays, when let's say if I was brand new to NFTs and I was talking to a Franklin or somebody else on Twitter, just anybody who, if I was just starting over and was just following people, um, what advice would I take from them? And I think a lot of people would say, make sure you do your research into the teams of certain projects. Don't get scammed by anonymous dev teams or people with hiding behind anonymous Twitter accounts, because they could easily just disappear with the minting funds, and you'll be left with NFT with not really utility or community. So, but because we're under that environment now where there's a lot of scams, a lot of rug pulls, I think doxing is not as criminal as what we made it out to be for BuzzFeed. It was just that we sort of turned back the hands of time to back when Bored Apes came out, when it was, I guess, okay for them to be anonymous. But I just know that um, if Bored Apes started today, a lot of us would be clamoring to figure out who these founders are before we'd even buy.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. I just feel like they had to come to it themselves, and they should do it on their own terms. That was just my comment. That's
just because they succeeded and did so well. That was one of the few projects that I trust anonymous people to help me out for. And the fact that they do LLCs and trademarks and things like that. And at least in the United States, you have to sort of be semi-doxed with the government if you're trying to make all this money. So I knew that it wasn't going to be like four people who would just take the money and run. So I didn't need them to be doxed. Um, but and with the rules that our space is playing by, it seems like a doxed team can do a little bit better than an undoxed team. So
Mm.
it didn't really make it, having them doxed did not make me want to sell my ape. I don't think it made other people want to dump their apes, things like that. I think it will be a net positive for our community. And it's
Yeah.
not like the whole team is doxed anyway, so we're still half and half. So if you wanted them doxed, you're halfway there. If you
Yeah.
didn't want them doxed at all, you're still you're still
No, no,
halfway
no.
there.
Yeah,
Happy.
completely makes sense. Yeah, completely makes sense. I mean, since we mentioned a little bit about kind of the whole market and the risks and the scams, let's talk a little bit about that because like there are lots of people who are relatively new in the space, and obviously like there are loads of things to be aware of and to sort of be very cautious about, and loads of kind of trusts thing that needs to be earned eventually, of course with the time, etc. And one of the things is when people have such valuable, like a very high value NFTs in their wallets, that's another sort of headache, right? In terms of, okay, how to keep them secure, how to make sure that they are not at risk, where to keep them, how to keep them, etc., etc. So obviously, in your case, like it's probably 30 times more than that in terms of how much you have to figure out.
Mhm.
So if like what's your advice, like when people have such big collections, such an expansive collections, what's the best way to deal with them, like how to make sure that you add those extra layers of security to it?
At least how I approached my wallet with the apes. Um, I think the big key is to never, first have a hardware wallet, which is, I think, a nice requirement to have for anybody who has any sort of NFT. Um, but at least with the hardware wallet, in order for me to confirm a transaction, I have to like read it on my device and press the button to confirm. So that gives, that keeps somebody from, hacking into my wallet and doing transactions at a different location, because that person wouldn't have my seed phrase nor private key because um, I've never shown it or never typed it in or never took a picture of it. I think the best advice to keep people from accessing your wallet is to never reveal your seed phrase, never reveal your private key. And with the hardware wallet, I don't have to do that. The only way somebody would have seen my seed phrase is if the first time I opened it, they would have to look over my shoulder and read the device and watch me write the words down. And I think by writing the words down, keeping them in multiple safe places, um, keeps you from having to memorize the seed phrase. So if I'm like groggy in the middle of the night and I see a big box that says type your seed phrase in to claim this, free NFT worth $1,000 billion, there I won't be able to type my seed phrase in because I don't know it by heart. I would have to, go to where my seed phrase is located and
Mm,
pick up all the copies of it, stitch them together, come back home, type it in. Like by the time I do all that, I'm like, it's just too much effort. And by
yeah.
then I realize, oh, I shouldn't be typing my seed phrase anywhere. So I think having that, you know, sort of sense of deniability where you just really
Mm,
can't you really can't type your seed phrase in because you don't know it. I think that really helps in the long run because it keeps you from making impulse decisions. Now, obviously, there's impulse decisions of approving transactions that, you know, execute sending out NFTs, sending out your apes to the scammer. That probably needs to be, um, I guess, a safe way to avoid doing that is to not, if you use your, well, I don't have my hardware wallet connected to my cell phone, but if you use like a burner wallet on like your cell phone or something, then that would keep you from accessing your hardware wallet. The 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 obviously the safest thing to do if you want to diamond hand all of your NFTs is to put them into a hardware wallet and just never even use the hardware wallet to approve any transactions. So
yeah.
if you I just like using it. It's not the best security practice, but I use it to store ETH to make purchases from. But I also, once I connect it, I always disconnect it or revoke permissions. But obviously, the safest way to keep stuff in your wallet is to just put things in the wallet that you'll never want to transfer back out of, that you never want to sell from. And if you never
Yeah.
approve of anything, they'll just be sitting there. And so there's absolutely no way it could be hacked, because if you had your other security practices like keeping your seed phrase in multiple, divided up into multiple locations, nobody's going to be able to find all those at one time and type them
Yeah.
into your into their hardware wallet. So there's a lot that I've thought about, and there's a lot of unfortunate scams that I've avoided. But at least each time you see a new one, it kind of rings the bell or lets me double check and make sure I'm avoiding that from happening again.
Yeah.
And another
No,
thing is to
makes
not
sense.
click on unauthorized links to trading websites. All the trading websites, they've realized that people get scammed through links, so the trading websites don't provide trading links anymore. They just require you to log into their
Yeah.
main website to view your offers. So if you get a link from somebody saying, "Hey, click this link and we'll do the trade," that's not how it works anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any preference for a hardware wallet?
I have a Ledger Nano X, so that's the one I've used so far. Um, Maybe I'll
Yeah.
start buying more down the road, or different types, and see how they work.
So I have a funny story about Ledger. I think around 2017 is where I've got when I've got my first Ledger, and I bought it with Bitcoin. So probably it's one of the most expensive ledgers out
Mhm.
there if you just convert how much you paid in Bitcoin and how much it's worth at the moment. So back in those days, I don't even think they yeah, I think there was just two options, ETH or Bitcoin, and yeah, those were the two
Yeah, that's a lot.
options. And yeah, it's a pretty expensive ledger that I've got at the moment. But yeah, okay, so
Did you buy it and then store your? Did you use it just to store a lot of crypto, or did you were you like trading it
yeah,
with the trade?
so basically, what I did, I'm not really a trader type of person, so I'm mainly holding, but also I bought it just to so since several years already, because I work in the crypto space professionally, I'm getting paid my salary in crypto. So I was using my ledger to get it on the hardware wallet, and then sort of to drive it to Coinbase or Kraken
Okay.
for converting it into fiat and paying bills. So that was kind of felt a bit safer route rather than just yeah. So whatever was it was mainly for storing stuff in there. And back then I didn't have NFTs, so I had several crypto kitties back in those days. Unfortunately, I changed my phone and I lost access to my wallet where those 4 crypto kitties were. So I can only see them in my wallet from far away, but I can't really access them. So that's another unfortunate story from the past days. So yeah, so back in those days, like there wasn't such a NFT scene back then. So yeah, the hardware wallet wasn't really used for those at back yeah. But now it's a completely different story, right? So now some of the NFTs are way more
Mhm.
valuable than one Bitcoin, for example. So obviously you need to pay attention to it and be equally careful or even more. So I just feel like just like Bitcoin maxis are so cautious about where and how they keep their Bitcoin. It's probably the same story and the same logic that people should follow about how and where to store their NFTs. And the other thing that I think is interesting is that back in those days, you might have thought that, your NFTs are worth nothing. Like, for example, with punks, people would claim it for free and, and they were available for quite a long time. People didn't even want to get them so much, right? It took them a while to sort of, to have everything claimed back in the days. So you may think like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, I've got it for free. It's just a free picture or whatever it is. And now it's a completely different story, right? So if back in those days you didn't really pay attention, or you weren't very careful, or you lost access to your wallet, whatever it was, like, then it would have been a problematic thing, right? So I think that's another thing. Right now we may think like, okay, yeah, I have this nice whatever, like this nice animal from a collection that is worth nothing, or it's just a very small amount, but you never know what's going to happen in a few years time. So I guess it's always a good practice to sort of be careful and keep everything and make sure you can access everything you have everywhere you have it. So yeah, I guess that's the thing. Okay, so I guess I don't know. Like many people who are in collectibles, the issue that they have is that it takes loads of time to follow everything, right? To follow the projects, to spend time in Discord, to follow the news, to be in the know about what's happening in the space, to make sure that they don't miss out any important development. So it's kind of a lot of time and effort and attention that is required for that stuff, right? So how are you managing that? Because you also mentioned that you're working as well, right? So this is not your full-time thing. So how are you balancing things out?
Yeah, I try not during weekdays, to be on Twitter or checking OpenSea prices much. I do work from home, so it's a lot more tempting to do it than if I was say at an office. Um, and then at night, usually more family time, so I'm trying to stay, keep my time off there. It's usually the really, really, really late nights, right, where I spend most of the time researching and seeing what happened during the day. Especially now that I've gotten so much into um, getting the passive tokens, it keeps me from having to worry about, oh, did I miss out on this or miss out on that? Because at least I would be ending up with a little bit more ETH guaranteed than I would have the day before. And so even if it's just a couple cents, it's still, that was fine with me. A year ago this time, I made a couple dollars a day in income, and still money that I didn't have before. So taking that extreme logic, and with the ape coin coming up, and then the creeps Lumi token that I'm getting, it sort of keeps me in a more level mood than maybe I was earlier in the summer, when my head was spinning about all different types of projects. So it lets me step back and just observe the space and see if in general it's going up or going down, but at least I don't have to worry about a specific individual project that I.
So you have less FOMO. That's what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's a privileged position to have, given how many apes I have. I just try not to think about that number of in my ape collection, and just focus on, okay, if I just put that aside, how much ETH do I have right now? What can I do with it? So the money that I'm making with creeps and cybercoms are just money that I could have spent on apes, but I feel like it was a good sort of diversification. That okay, I can still make money in NFTs. Hopefully, the goal will be more money than what I make in my day job, just by not doing anything. And I felt like I put the time and effort in to follow markets and follow trends enough in 2021 that I can sort of step back and just improve myself mentally in 2022. And the wrench that gets thrown in is the ape coin. If that's a big hit, then I would enjoy having those extra tokens, and maybe I could use that to reinvest into the NFT space, and sort of dive back in and find these new trends, or the growing amount of users, new marketplaces, etc. So kind of right now I'm sort of in a holding period where I think a lot of us are in the ape community. We're just waiting to see what the next announcement is, and that's an observation. that I've noticed between like that project and even with like a Creeps project or any other project, there's a lot of people who need to have sort of announcements or roadmap progress being shown for them to want to hold their NFT for a long period of time. And with apes, we haven't had a big major roadmap update since probably Ape Fest. Other than that, it's just been games and teasers.
Yeah.
But any other project that took this long of a delay will probably not do too well because people, I wouldn't say are
Yeah.
impatient. They're just
No.
the time
Yeah.
is so fast
I see what you mean.
that they're ready to go on to the next big thing.
Yeah.
So
I
that's another thing
see
I'm
what you
trying
mean.
to see, like,
Yeah.
what projects can survive without huge announcements or huge promises, things like that.
Yeah, no, makes sense. For those who are watching and don't really know how it works, when you mention passive income and you mention, that you're getting money passively from creeps and from Kongs, can you explain how that works?
Yeah, well, we can't in our country we can't say passive income
Okay,
because we
let's
can't really
scratch that.
promise. Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
promise buying something and getting a like a dividend or something in return without it being,
got
I
it.
guess, a
Because
stock.
it can be considered as a security. That's why.
Yeah, something like that. So
Okay.
so
Hmm.
that's another reason why I think the Bored Apes are taking so long to develop their token because being now being doxxed, being in the U.S.,
Yeah.
such a high value NFT company,
Hmm.
they don't want to run afoul of the government from day one. So
Yeah.
that's another. I know they have that in the back of their heads, and they wouldn't be purposefully breaking any laws. But let's just say, for the sake of the discussion, that whenever they do release something, it is more money that I'll be making just by not doing anything. And I think how that would work is if a project has a token that has demand for people to buy it who might not own any sort of NFT, and also people who own the NFT but just need to instead of waiting to receive them, they need to skip to the front of the line, or they need to increase their balance, or maybe the price is really low, so
Hmm.
they want to just invest and see if they can flip it at a profit. As long as there are use cases for the token in a sort of play to earn environment, I know we're really early. I don't think there's going to be a like PlayStation type video game where we're just using crypto tokens that other people are making that you could buy or sell or earn. I think we're still a ways away from that, but that's just something that you know, I always think of Grand Theft Auto, the video game, as an example. They have money in the game. That money in the game can be bought using real money or earned during the game. So as long as you have like utility for that, and people want to stack their play money instead of their real money, I think that would make the token succeed. So a lot of these projects have either promised it or have started it. They could have already started an early version of the video game. And the ways to earn tokens are, if you have a certain NFT, you could stake it by transferring it out of your wallet to a staking wallet, so that the smart contract gives you a certain amount of tokens. Every I guess every second, and it adds up until you decide to claim the tokens, and then maybe there's options where either you have to pay gas to take your NFT back to get the tokens, or you can just get the tokens and pay gas and leave your NFT in the staking contract. With CyberKongs, there's no staking needed. You could have it listed for sale or unlisted, but as long as it's in your wallet, you'll be accumulating the banana token. You can always claim it. So that eliminates
Got
the
it.
amount of gas paid, I guess, by half, because you only need one transaction to get your passive tokens. So, it'll be interesting to see how the apes do it. Maybe they'll ask us to stake, or maybe we don't have to stake, and they'll be like CyberConks where we're just sitting and we don't have to do anything to our ape, and we'll be able to grab the tokens. Maybe they
Hmm.
don't even have passive tokens at all. Maybe the pot is over here, and then you play the game. And if you win the game, you get
Yeah.
some of the pot, and because, or maybe it's split up where like certain amount of apes on this day get the token, and a certain amount of apes another day get a token, or mutants get a token this day, or mutants get this many percentage of tokens as apes, and then like if you
Yeah,
have a dog, you might not make the
yeah,
token.
there are too many different
Yeah.
options in there, and I guess like many people would like to have been a fly on the walls of the team when they were discussing those for sure, just to
Yeah.
figure
The
out
goal.
which option they would pick.
Hmm.
But yeah, absolutely. A question, like there is this very tempting tendency, especially with people who actually like bet on the right collectibles and kind of made it right when the collectibles just like Bored Apes mooned, and it's like all these tweets that we see from people saying, I quit my job, and I'm finally free, and I'm in NFTs full time and all that stuff.
Hmm.
With 30 something Bored Apes, you could have definitely done that. So a question like, were you ever tempted, or like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
what's
sure.
the
The
situation there?
temptation's there. I mean, we need first we need health insurance, so that's important. Who knows what could go wrong? I don't want to be, you know, what if NFTs tank by 50% one day and then I get sick the next day?
Hmm.
You always want to be prepared for the worst. Um,
Yeah,
and I just was confident in my abilities to make money outside of the apes, and outside of my job through other NFT ways. Now that I have what I have now with the creeps and cybercons, that you know I would be betting that hopefully one day that the amount of tokens, if things go well, would be more than what I make at my job. And like I said, I'm not even counting the ape coin. So if I could get like a sweet spot where I don't have to do anything NFT wise and just collect passive tokens to replace what I make at my day job, that would be a nice signal for me to quit. But if it's like 5 or 10% more than what I make in my day job, or even if it's like a marginal amount more, I don't think it's worth quitting my job for, because you know that the market's so volatile that I could be projected to make my salary in a year today, and tomorrow the value of the token goes down by 50%, and then it's like, well, now that's 2 years worth of work or 2 years worth of passive tokens that I would need to replace 1 year of work. So I think it's important, if you can, to keep a keep a job in the Web 2 world, unless you're just for sure, certain that you're making a
I,
regular
I
income.
think
And I
it's
don't see
very
that.
important you
Mhm.
mentioned that, because it's the temptation is very high. I get that, and
Yeah.
like many people are very tempted to do so, and they do. I just
Mhm.
feel like that sustainability and stability and kind of projecting and understanding what's going to happen next is very important indeed. So like if
Yeah. If I if I just
yeah,
dumped on my apes right now at this current price, I would be very happy with the money I got from it, to the point where I probably would quit, because that would be more money than I would have made in my job up to retirement.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just I just think we still have ways to go with this project, and I will be okay if like I lose half of it in unrealized gains. I just think that it's too I just feel it's too early to quit that, to get out of the apes to quit my job. I feel like
Yeah.
if I could do both for as long as I can, I think that would be more beneficial for my health wise, and crypto wise. I think I'll be selling myself short if I didn't make it to the ape coin passive
Yeah.
token. Yeah.
No, 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 no. I get it. And I think it's a very sort of down to earth approach, which
Hmm.
is not always very common in this space, right? Like we are all very impatient, very emotional, very kind of, yeah, it's not
Hmm.
a very common way of looking at things. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out because I thought it's important and not many are actually talking about it. So it's kind of a good point to make at this
Yeah.
conversation.
I think
Um,
I think it's good for me to have that choice where, like, okay, I can get rid of 5 or 10 apes if at any time, and I'll be
yeah,
happy with it no matter what the price. Obviously, if the price dropped 99%, I'll be upset, but I doubt that it's going to happen. Sorry, sorry to
yeah,
hear my dog.
it's
But yeah.
okay. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so I guess I don't know. I mean, if we have to wrap it up, maybe we can sort of, dive a little bit into. I mean, many people are kind of thinking about whether collectibles is the future actually, or it had like this big hype and now it's going to slow down with the time, and some other things are coming into the space that are going to be the next big thing.
Mhm.
So what are your views on that? Like, are PFPs still going to be around, or maybe it's going to be replaced with bigger interest among one-on-one art, or is it going to be play to earn like the metaverse, etc., etc.? Like, how do you see this space evolving? Do you think like another Bored Ape type of big success PFP is gonna come in the future, or it's already sort of like that was the time and it was done and now it's about something else?
That's a good question. It's really hard to predict the future. I had no idea when I bought the apes that they would be the, I guess the face of NFT profile pictures in terms of cost to, floor price and things like that. There was no way I'd predict that, especially 9 months in. I would have said like, give it 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Um, so now if we started from now and go like 2 or 3 years in the future, I think that, you know, the quote unquote metaverse where we're all in like a 3D virtual world, I think that's
Yeah.
going to be the leading sort of trend for Web3. So we'd all have a like a 3D digital identity where we can visit digital worlds. It's a lot easier to do that than travel during a pandemic and risking our lives. So I think a lot of society will probably be keen to moving towards a virtual world from here on out. There's a lot less there's a lot less logistics involved in doing that. So instead of actually being somewhere in person, so I think that's where we're headed. As far as profile picture projects, I thought in September, October that they're going to get tiresome and people won't care about them anymore. But a lot of new people came after Christmas, and
Yeah.
it just made me realize like we're still sort of at the beginning. And so I think there's a lot more left with profile picture projects, not necessarily new ones. Um, there's also ones that existed, even with their small limited quantities, people could still recognize and want them. And I really like how diverse people's choices are, where not everybody wants an ape as their profile picture. They're really happy with maybe their first NFT or NFT that they worked really hard to trade up to get, and it could be
Yeah.
worth like zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 ETH. There's no like disrespect or anything towards people who have different profile pictures. I think that's also good for a space too. Not everybody needs to have a Bored Ape profile picture to feel, I guess, included in our society. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited that people are excited themselves about all kinds of different profile picture projects, and it's always cool seeing people with new profile picture projects that I haven't seen before, and they're already rocking as a profile picture. So it just shows that they really care about their identity and are very protective of it. And I think we're going to have that for a while because I think we have to go through a cycle of everybody trying it at least once before we can move on. And there's some people who still haven't tried it yet. Who um, it's always interesting. There's people like who just joined NFTs today who never bought one, all this time, and they'll have their profile picture changed by tomorrow, and you'll see it on Twitter by tomorrow. But it's like as of now, you don't even know that they even know. They probably don't know what NFT is, and by the time you wake up tomorrow, they have a new profile picture. So the,
Yeah.
I see a whole lot more of that happening, um, and then eventually we'll start getting into like a virtual world metaverse. But I think that's where we're going to be headed.
Okay, got it. And how do you feel about the Twitter's NFT verification feature? Have you tried
No, I
that?
thought it was
Are
pretty
you
cool.
excited about it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I didn't even think that they would care enough about NFTs. Their founder Jack has Bitcoin in his bio, so it's not really like Ethereum. He's not like a Ethereum based
Yeah.
NFT person. It's the fact that Twitter, recognized how much we all used that platform to discuss NFTs and talk about it and show off our profile pictures. Um, and they like made it. They made verifiable. It's almost like a way to verify your account without needing a blue check mark. So if this is like the first way, if this is Twitter's first way of expanding their verification projects, and they chose NFTs, that really makes me think I was in the right space, in the right spot at the right time to be sort of ahead of it by already having a NFT profile picture. So now it's
Yeah.
just validating it on the blockchain for the public to see.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, I mean, thank you very much for your time. It was
No
very
problem.
interesting discussion. I think it's also very important to showcase people, who are big whales, so to speak,
Mhm.
in the big high value projects, and show how humble they are, because I think that's a very interesting and very important component of the community space, right? Because it's kind of it's yeah, I mean, many people are using these apes just to flex, but not all of them, right? And not all of them are kind of rich people who became even richer, right? So I think it's very important to see the humans behind those avatars and PFP avatars, and to show that, we're talking to people just like us. It's nothing like so different. It's not like that, and these people didn't really change because they became JPEG rich. I think that's another thing that is very important for me personally, just to see, to verify, and also to share with others, because now we're going to have lots of celebrities coming into the space, and paying these big amounts for an ape, and for the flex, and for just getting into a space where they haven't been before, etc., etc. So the boundaries are going to get a bit blurred in between with the time. So I think it's very important to sort of showcase people who have been there from the beginning, and to talk about the real community behind those projects way before it's going to change its demographics at one point. It's going to change its vibe with the time, maybe. I mean, I just don't know how it's going to develop further, so we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, you mentioned celebrities. I wasn't expecting, you know, first I wasn't expecting a lot of celebrities to join this quickly, but also didn't expect them to pay so much money. So then it's always, the outside society can just look at it. Yeah, it's just inviting the outside society, or people don't really like NFTs that much, to criticize, because it's like, oh, why are they paying this much money just for this, or did they get paid for that? Why are they shilling this particular NFT? They don't get in trouble. So definitely, I definitely can see that, and that was not the reason why I bought as many apes as I did at the time. I didn't buy it because a certain celebrity owned it. Um, so as long as we stay honest to what we believe in as far as these projects, um, it doesn't really. I like it when new people join, whether it's a celebrity or not a celebrity, and it's not a bad thing if somebody wants to exit or doesn't want to join.
Yeah,
But
no. I didn't mean it
yeah,
in the bad sense of things. I just
yeah,
wanted to put a bit of differentiation between the two, and just showcase the people who were there in the very
yeah.
beginning,
No,
adamant. So
I was just
yeah.
saying it because it surprised me too. I just didn't. I wasn't expecting, like, you know influencers and celebrities and big names to even recognize what Web3 meant this early on. I thought we were still I thought we were still very early, but now
Yeah.
we're mainstream.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, yeah, once again, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate that. So I will be saying goodbye to our audience and stop the stream before we catch up, before we part. So
Mhm.
thank you very much, everyone who was watching. It's gonna stay on the feed, so anyone who missed it can watch the replay. It will. I mean, I'm not gonna delete the tweet. It's gonna be there, and later on, in a couple of weeks, the audio version will also be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for those who prefer to just listen it on the go. You will guys have that option as well. So thank you very much, and
Thanks, everybody.
bye everyone who was watching. Take care.
Bye bye.